This is CBC Vancouver News.
Anything from, meals to helping do their laundry.
As the community marks 1 week since the Lapu-Lapu festival tragedy, how volunteers are helping provide support to those still recovering in hospital. Plus,
we were simply waiting for the inevitable to occur, and that's exactly what this feels like today.
Toxic smoke from a Ferry fire near Mission forces residents to stay indoors and renews calls from the city's mayor to remove derelict vessels from the Fraser River. Also,
right now in the spring wildfire season, we know that the biggest impact of the wildfires we see are human caused.
as wildfire activity picks up across the province, officials are reminding people to stay vigilant. Hello, I'm Janella Hamilton. Thanks for joining us. It was 1 week ago today, 11 people were killed and dozens more injured when a driver of an SUV rammed into the crowd at a Filipino street festival in South Vancouver. The Lapu-Lapu Day festival tragedy has sent shockwaves across the country, with masses and memorials planned in various communities this weekend. And at the site where the tragedy happened, people came out today to mark the somber occasion. Brady Strachan was there.
People have been gathering all weekend at this memorial site and in mass events held and candlelight vigils here in Vancouver and across British Columbia to remember the 11 people who died and the many more who were injured in the van attack last week at the Lapu-Lapu Festival. Now, this memorial site here, many people have been coming here on Saturday, including many that were at a church mass earlier Saturday and then came here in the hundreds to all join in prayer, along with public officials who are here. We spoke to some people that were at the gathering, including a man who was at the festival on the night of the attack. Some of the members of his family witnessed what happened, and he spoke to us about the trauma and how he's processing it.
The media is moving on to other things, and I get it, but for me, there's no closure. It's a permanent pain that I have to live with, and this is helping me close that pain, even if it might never come, but I need to face it. I can't just ignore it.
As more people turn out to this memorial site to pay their respects by laying flowers or lighting a candle, CBC News has also confirmed now 10 of the 11 victims who died in the attack. Most recently, CBC has confirmed Riza Pakalongan, a woman who moved from the Philippines to Canada with her husband and died that night 1 week ago, and also Janella Hamilton, a woman in her 20s who was at the festival with her partner, and she died, and her partner was injured and is in hospital. They're both being remembered by their relatives as loving members of the family, cousins and daughters. Brady Strachan, CBC News, Vancouver.
Days later, some of those who were injured during the alleged attack are still in hospital recovering. As Shoria Chethri reports, Vancouver's Filipino community are visiting survivors, hoping to provide support during these difficult times.
Checking up on one of the people that was hurt in the Lapu-Lapu Day tragedy.
RJ Aquino with Filipino BC is visiting a survivor of last weekend's car ramming at this hospital in New Westminster.
They're on their road to recovery, but I'll say, conditions vary really all across the board. There's a family where one member of the family is in Lionsgate and then another member of the family is in Children's.
On Thursday, police said 13 people were still being treated in hospitals. 6 are in critical or serious condition. Aquino and volunteers behind the Lapu-Lapu Day Festival have been making the rounds at hospitals across Metro Vancouver, hoping to provide some comfort to those recovering.
Anything from, meals to helping do their laundry to, any financial constraints brought upon not being available to work.
And it's been possible, he says, thanks to a steady stream of donations from the community.
Through the mercy of God, rest in peace.
Amen. Messages of sympathy and support continue to come in at this side of last weekend's tragedy.
It's the community coming together and standing with each other that will allow us to heal and move forward.
At this Gurudwara on Ross Street in Vancouver, a special prayer has been taking place since Friday.
So we pay our homage to departed souls and we pray for a quick recovery who are still in the hospital.
There, devotees have been taking turns reading the 1,430-page-long Sikh scripture, an uninterrupted ritual that takes 48 hours to complete.
So we start 9:30 Friday. We will finish tomorrow 9:30 in the morning.
Memorial masses and vigils will be held across BC this weekend. Elmore, who was at the Filipino Street Festival after the alleged attack, says the prayers offer an outlet to grieve.
Mental health supports being put in place with United Way and Red Cross. There are counseling services available. I think I also have to take my advice and get that support.
She says support is available for all those who are impacted, including first responders who are also feeling the toll of the tragedy.
There's trauma in the community, there's trauma within our organization, and it's going to take time to process that trauma.
Aquino says the outpour of support and solidarity are paving the way toward recovery.
It's not going to be a quick recovery, but we want to make sure that there is a path to recovery.
Shaurya Chetri, CBC News, Vancouver.
Following last weekend's car ramming, questions have been raised about security surrounding big events, and with thousands of runners and spectators expected at the BMO Marathon tomorrow, Vancouver police are assuring event-goers a safety plan is in place.
We have every reason to believe that the marathon, thousands of people coming out on Sunday morning to run 42 kilometers will be able to do so in an environment that is safe and fun and enjoyable.
Addison says 200 police personnel will be deployed along the 42-kilometer route and in high pedestrian areas. There will also be heavy vehicle barriers, security checks, and traffic closures to help mitigate any risks. A former BC Ferry's vessel moored in the Fraser River near Mission went up in flames this morning, sending toxic smoke into the air. It prompted a temporary warning for residents nearby to shelter in place. It comes after the iconic McBarge vessel sank in late March in neighboring Maple Ridge. And as Sohrab Sandhu reports, the mayor of Mission says he's raised concerns about the decommissioned ferry before.
This is what remains of an abandoned BC Ferries ship that has been moored on the Fraser River in Mission for 2 decades. Remnants from its past glory days still visible. The derelict vessel was destroyed in an early morning fire, sending thick plumes of smoke into the air, prompting a warning for residents nearby.
Effectively about 3:47 a.m. last night, the first of 2 alerts were sent out using the Alertable app to people in the area, advising them to shelter in place and to close their windows because wind was blowing from the southeast. There was a concern about toxic smoke entering the area of Silverdale.
At the scene of the fire, hours later, smoke continues to smolder from the ship, a distinct smell lingering in the air.
The ferry, we were informed, contained a variety of vehicles, forklifts, and other scrap materials.
Police say there's nothing to indicate the fire was intentionally set, but investigators haven't been able to board the vessel due to hazardous nature of the smoke.
Our investigators are down there right now flying drones over it, doing 3D modeling and seeing what they can see from a distance. But right now the scene is too dangerous to enter for an investigation.
BC Ferries says the ship was in operation from 1960 to 2000. The 102-meter vessel was sold in 2002 and has been moored near Mission ever since.
We do know the family that owns the vessel and we'll be communicating with them offline.
Horn says the city has expressed concerns about the vessel in the past, most recently in December of 2023.
The letter that we wrote on behalf of council to the federal government expressed our concern that we were simply waiting for the inevitable to occur, and that's exactly what this feels like today.
The city says the vessel will be handed over to the Coast Guards for cleanup, as it is currently in federal waters. Mayor Horn says he'll continue to lobby for its removal. The shelter-in-place advisory has now been lifted, but residents are being asked to keep windows and doors closed, as the smoke may continue for a couple more days. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Mission.
An evacuation order and alert issued last night for a handful of properties near Hixon, just south of Prince George, has been rescinded. The BC Wildfire Service says the fire has burned about 70 hectares so far, and crews were working throughout the night to protect infrastructure and put out spot fires.
The BC Wildfire Service supported the Hixon Fire Department in response. Crews from both BC Wildfire and the Hixon Fire Department remained on site overnight, and air tankers and helicopters responded right away upon detection as well.
The advisories come as fire activity ticks up in the province, particularly in the north. BC's Minister of Forests, Ravi Parmar, says this weekend's fire near Hixon is a glimpse of what's to come.
Right now, in the spring wildfire season, we know that the biggest impact of the wildfires we see are human-caused. We've seen countless examples of that. I encourage British Columbians, smarten up. We got to work together. We got to keep our communities safe. Everyone has a role to play.
As of 10 o'clock tonight, there were 46 wildfires burning in the province. 12 are considered out of control. 11 of those wildfires are in northeastern BC. The emergency department at South Okanagan General Hospital in Oliver will be closed once again overnight. Interior Health says emergency services will be unavailable until 7 o'clock Sunday morning. The hospital's ER has been closed multiple times this year, including last night. People in need of emergency care are being told to go to Penticton Regional Hospital, about a half an hour away. Interior Health says the closure is due to staffing challenges. No one was available over the weekend to address specific details. A Surrey immigration consultant is sounding the alarm, finding out her firm was included in fraudulent employment documents. The documents are called labor market impact assessments. As John Hernandez reports, scammers are selling fake ones to foreign nationals on the false promise they'll get to live and work in Canada.
The employer contact name was in lowercase.
In just 2 weeks, Samira Agnihotri uncovered 2 fake employment documents with her name on them.
If you look at our name, Agnihotri Immigration Consulting Inc., we always, in our actual LMIAs, we have a period there.
These appear to be labor market impact assessments. Both were brought to her attention by local firms that received the documents on behalf of a foreign worker. Agnihotri's company is listed as a third-party representative on the documents, but she had never heard of the workers or the businesses listed on them.
I was like, no, this is not our client. You know, I pulled up my online LMIA portal, put in that company name, nothing popped up.
LMIAs are documents that employers receive from the government if they want to hire a foreign worker. They show that the foreign worker is needed to fill a specific job. But regulators say more and more fraudsters are selling forged LMIAs to foreign nationals under the false promise they'll get to live and work in Canada. The employers listed in these documents, a construction company in Kelowna and a trucking company in Abbotsford, denied any knowledge of the LMIA. Agnihotri has since submitted them to investigators, but wonders just how many more could be out there.
It's quite concerning because I've only seen 2, and I'm one individual, one company. We don't know how big this thing is happening.
We get emails from people all the time asking, hey, is this LMIA real? It's never real.
This Toronto-based immigration consultant says the pattern has become increasingly familiar.
There are scammers, numerous scammers out there in the world who are making these fake LMIAs and selling them to unsuspecting workers who have this glimmer of hope that they might be able to get a job in Canada.
Regulators wouldn't provide figures on how vast the issue is, but previous CBC investigations have unearthed cases of LMIA fraud sold through websites like Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace.
People are forking out hundreds and literally thousands of dollars for these LMIAs, and they're not real. Like, they're just out that money.
Regulators say enforcement blitzes have shut down thousands of online ads from scammers selling these types of documents while posing as immigration professionals. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Still ahead, a legacy of liberation. Events are taking place in the Netherlands, marking 80 years since Canadian forces helped free the Dutch from Nazi control during the Second World War. That's next. Stay with us. Newfoundland and Labrador's Liberal Party has a new leader who will take over as Premier. John Hogan will replace Andrew Ferry, who resigned in February. The party made the announcement at its leadership convention earlier today. Peter Cowan has the details.
John Hogan has a lot of experience behind the scenes with the Liberal Party. He served on the executive for years, and in the last leadership race, he helped get Andrew Furey elected, but now he is going into the top job. At just 47 years old, he has a young family who were with him on stage as he delivered his speech. His little son Jack upstaging him a little bit on the stage, but he emphasized that his family is one of the reasons that he got into politics and wants to make changes in Newfoundland and Labrador.
I recognize it comes with heavy responsibility, lead with integrity and humility, to listen and to work tirelessly for the people of our province. And I'm committed to giving this everything I have, every single day. We will build a stronger, fairer, and more prosperous Newfoundland and Labrador, where families can grow and thrive. And I want Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to know I've got your back.
He's taking over the top job at a very busy time. He's going to have to figure out a new cabinet. He's going to have to figure out when to call an election. There is a fixed election date for this fall, but there's been some talk that the Liberals may decide to move that up into earlier in this year to have a spring election. He's also got a lot of issues on his plate, from how the province is going to deal with the threat of tariffs, how they're going to deal with interprovincial trade and negotiations that the Prime Minister wants to happen before July 1st. And he's also going to have to figure out how to get a deal with Quebec on hydroelectricity. This is worth tens of billions of dollars. He called it a multi-generational opportunity, and he said as a lawyer he's going to be putting his eyes towards this agreement to try and get this done. It'll likely take a little bit of time before he's actually sworn in, but since he is already a cabinet minister, he already has a seat, it'll be an easier transition than when the last premier came in and there had to be a by-election. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. John's.
A weekend of ceremonies is marking 80 years since the Netherlands' liberation from Nazi Germany. It was a mission where Canadian troops were at the forefront, parading through the streets of newly freed towns. And today, a Canadian contingent was on parade again. Chris Brown was there.
This is the main street in the city of Apeldoorn in the Netherlands, and it seems like the entire town has come out for this celebration that occurs once every 5 years, a commemoration of liberation, but also of Canada. It was Canadian soldiers who drove the Nazis out of Apeldoorn in 1945 and who fed its starving population. And on Saturday, some of those soldiers who served in the skies, on the seas, and on land returned to a hero's welcome. 22 Canadian vets, the youngest 96, the oldest 105, led the parade.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here.
And amidst a sea of Canadian flags, they all stopped along the route to shake people's hands and to hear words of gratitude. Some appeared to be overcome with emotion. Among the Canadians, it was William Seifert, who celebrated his 100th birthday on Saturday. He served as a reconnaissance scout as the Allies pushed westward to Germany.
They deserve everything we have here to welcome them back here. The youngest is 96 years old. That says how much we love them and they love us.
To see that they were that young to die for my freedom, yeah, that means a lot to me, and it makes it more real that in these times, with the current situations going on around the world, that we get to live in this freedom, and we got to thank them for them, and that means a lot.
Among the Canadians who traveled here was Ellen Mole from Etobicoke, a former bagpiper. She joined a similar parade 15 years ago, but said she wanted to return.
But I really understood from the love and the gratitude of the Dutch people how important our place can be, how we can help the world. And it was just one of the most incredible experiences of my life, honestly.
This parade is just one of many commemorations over this weekend. Sunday is Remembrance Day in the Netherlands, and Monday there will be more ceremonies to mark the occasion when a Canadian general accepted the surrender of Nazi forces in the Netherlands 8 decades ago. Chris Brown, CBC News in Apeldoorn.
To mark the 80th anniversary, here are a few events taking place in BC. On May 4th from 10 to 12 p.m., a ceremony will be held at Mountain View Cemetery in Vancouver, with 2 minutes of silence being observed at 11 o'clock. Ceremonies are also taking place tomorrow and on May 8th at the BC Legislature's Cenotaph in Victoria, and on the island, a parade from the Campbell River Legion to the Cenotaph will begin at 5:45 p.m., ending with a flag-raising ceremony at City Hall. Here we have a time lapse as the sun rises over downtown Vancouver today. Is the sun here to stay? Weather is next. All right, it is time now to take a look at your weather for the weekend. Let's start with a quick peek at the current temperatures around the province tonight. 3 degrees in Fort St. John, a bit rainier in Williams Lake with a similar condition of 3 degrees overnight. On the island, 4 in Victoria and 2 in Tofino, mostly overcast overnight. And heading into tomorrow, 15 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds in Fort St. John. Rain is expected for the Prince George area and a high of 12 for tomorrow. Thunderstorms are a risk for areas like Kelowna with a high of 16 for tomorrow, and on the island, nice and sunny in both Victoria and Tofino with an expected high of 14. We are going to see similar conditions in Metro Vancouver with a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 14 for our Sunday. That temperature is going to gradually rise up until Tuesday with an expected high of 21, but then those temperatures are expected to dip later next week. That is your late news for this Saturday, May 3rd. To keep up to date with all the latest news, you can head to our website at cbc.ca/bc. We'll see you tomorrow.